What is an Xform? Let's break it down. So from ChatGPT, what is an Xform? It's just a transform, so it's short for transform, and it's a special kind of prim that groups other prims below it, and it allows you to apply transforms to that Xform, which will then cascade down and apply the same transforms to all the children within that Xform. So it doesn't have a visible geometry itself, so let's look at an example. So we'll open up USD View, and we have a blank stage. Let's open up the interpreter. Let's get a reference to the stage. Now we're going to define an Xform, similar to how we did with prims using USdGeom. We're going to define the Xform on the stage, and we're going to call it cubesXform. And we can see now in the hierarchy, we've got an Xform, and it's called cubesXform. But if we look around, there's nothing to be seen yet. So now we're going to run this command, which is defining a cube. But if we look at the path of the cube, it's going to get the cubesXform's path, which will be /cubesXform, and then it will append the name cube1 on the end. So what that's saying is add a cube within that Xform. And if we go ahead and we run that, we can see in the hierarchy under cubesXform, there's cube1. And now the cube is displaying. Now let's just set the color on that so we can distinguish that from the next cube we're going to create. And we can see we've made that green. Now we're going to create another cube called cube2, also within that Xform. Again, now you can see this Xform has two cubes. And let's set that color of the second cube now so it's different to the first. And let's take cube2 and move it 3 points across on the x-axis. And we can see we now have a green and a red cube, both within this Xform. Now I'm going to create a second Xform called spheresXform, and this one will contain two spheres. Now I'm just going to go through this quite quickly. It's going to be the exact same process except with spheres. So I'm going to fast forward this. Now you can see we've got a cubesXform and a spheresXform, but again, they're in the same space. So let's turn off the cubesXform, and we can see there's the spheresXform it'll show. And if we turn off the spheresXform, then nothing's showing. So let's turn them both back on. And to be able to see them side by side, what we're going to do is we're going to run this command. We're going to set the translate of the spheresXform to move up 3 on the Z. So as we do that, we can see now that moves up on the Z-axis, and we can see all that we needed to do was move the parent Xform, and the two spheres moved along with the parent. You see, we only set the command here for the Xform, but these two spheres moved up because they were children of this Xform. Now let's further show you what we can do with this. We're going to get a reference to the XformCommonAPI by saying cubesXform transforms equals UsdGeom.XformCommonAPI cubesXform. So we now have a reference to the cubesXform. Now let's run some transforms on that. Let's set the scale to be 2 on the x for the cubes transform. And as we do that, we can see both of the children within the cubes transform change their scale, but that did not affect the spheresXform. Now what we can also do is we can rotate our cubesXform. So we set rotate 45 degrees on the y. And lastly, let's translate it. So what we can see is these Xforms contain children within them. We apply any transformations to the Xforms, it applies to the children within it. And that's all an Xform is. It's a container that you can apply transforms to. Don't forget to like or subscribe, and see you in the next one.